Come at me, bro. Let's see how this works out. You're live. An error occurred. Please try again. Please check video resolution. The current resolution, which is not optimal. Close. Always a treat. I'm sorry, peoples, if there is anybody watching, which it says I've got one viewer, but I kind of don't think I do. Nope, no viewers. Good. Now I'm viewing myself. Sweet. Let's see if it's terrible. Okay. Good connection. Let's go to settings. And let's see. Playbacks. Well, hopefully it's going good. Okay. First things first. So I was thinking about it, and the last stream I did, I was talking about Vox Day, and it was definitely like a clickbaity type of a title, and it was kind of fun. I was laying in bed and thinking, and my wife had asked me a question, and the question she asked me was like, what opinions do I have that are my own opinions, that are not from Vox or from Owen and that kind of stuff. And I think it's very important to have independent thought and to think for yourself. It's very important to analyze and do your own thinking and do your own research and come to conclusions on your own. Excuse me. That being said, it's also very important to take in input from others, especially people who know, and take in the knowledge of others. And so the thing that I was thinking about, looks like I might have a visitor. BB. Okay, come give me a hug, hon. Okay, you need to go to bed. Go. What's wrong?
Is that a video?
It is. Okay, but
Are you making up a new video?
I am.
Am I gonna be a part of it now?
You are. Hey, but what's going on? What's going on tomorrow?
I'm going to Iwana's house.
Hey, stop. No, I'm not asking them, I'm asking you. Okay, look at me, look at my eyes. Where do you need to go?
To bed.
Are you going to do that?
Yeah.
When?
Right now.
Okay, go.
I just wanted to
Look at me. What did I ask you to do?
Go.
Are you going to do it? When?
Right now.
Okay, go. Love you. Shut the door. Sorry. Oh, but my wife had asked me. What I was planning on doing with, or what my own opinions were, and that's the thing that I was thinking about before I went to bed. I was like, what opinions do I have, and where do I differ with Fox's opinions? And his opinions I really respect and I really like, and that I hope that last video didn't come off as attacking him, because I do really like and support Vox, and so. And I don't think it did. It's interesting. I've had email conversations with Vox, and that was one of the things that I brought up in one of the conversations we had. And he didn't respond to that point specifically about agency and about how we change and stuff. And he didn't need to. I mean, he has a million things to do, so that's fine. But that was I guess why I felt like, hey, I needed to point out some of the stuff that I don't know, some of my own opinions, and I needed it for myself, not for anybody else really, but just for myself to think of like where those differences in opinion are. Anyways, the thing that I wanted to talk about today was I've had a lot of friends and a lot of conversations with friends. Sorry, this cough is just terrible. But I've had a lot of conversations with friends about especially in like a religious manner, where you talk about about God and about how you can know what an answer from God, how you can get an answer from God. And the thing that it always comes back to for me is the question of this. Excuse me, sorry. If God were to want to talk to you, if God were to want to tell you something, how do you think he would do that? How would he do that? And a lot of times the answer comes as, oh, it'd be some miraculous thing, or oh, it'd be some, especially with my friends that are like atheists, oh, it would be this, and they have this idea of how God would talk to them. And then the question is like, well, why? Why do you think he would talk to you that way? And also, what if you're wrong? What if he talks to you in a different way? And I think that the question and the stem that I guess the thing that I'm trying to get at is, what is it going to take for you to listen to what the things that God says to you? What is it going to take for you to listen to inspiration, or listen to the Holy Ghost, or listen to things that are going to bring you where God wants you to be? And there's a lot of different answers to that. There's a lot of different opinions on that. And I think that one of the reasons there are is because God talks to each of us differently. He speaks through each of us differently. Sometimes it's through a different person. Whether somebody just stopped by and asked how you're doing or something in that time when you really needed a friend, or you needed somebody to give you that nod and that, hey, you're doing right. Some people, they have fantastic dreams, and they have dreams about what the Lord wants them to think. Some people, I think it's in the scriptures it talks about how God speaks to our hearts and our minds, and that's the thing that I really wanted to point out, really, is how we receive revelation differently, each of us, but God is, his relationship with us should be personal. It should be individual. The thing that brought me to that was I was wondering about my kids and what I want them to know, and that's the thing. That's one of the biggest lessons that I think that we have to learn in this life, is not only that God can influence us and speak to us directly through revelation, but that he speaks to us individually, and I've seen that in my life. Getting on to it was interesting. I read an article about the SPLC, and for those who don't know what that is, that's the the Center for SPLC. I'm drawing a blank on it. SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center. There we go. Southern Poverty Law Center. So this is an organization that apparently, I mean, it looks like it was founded with like a good focus and a good drive, which was originally to fight against injustice and fight against hate and that kind of stuff. And even on their website, if you go onto their website, there's a page where they have these different court cases that they've influenced or they've been a part of, and it has back in like I want to say 68 or 69 is when the first one I don't remember. It was before I was born by a good chunk, 20 or 30 years. But they have court cases, and then all the way up through 2000s, through about 2000, they have a court case every 1 or 2 years. It seems like. But then when you look at since the year 2000, there was nothing. Like there was they didn't have any cases until in 2002 they did, and then in 2013, and then 2017 or something like that. So they had like in the last almost 20 years they've had 3 cases, and they still have this on their timeline as like, oh, look at what we're doing and stuff. But yet they have reported such an increase in in hate organizations. They said that this year they've had the highest influx of hateful organizations. But then you look at those organizations and it's like Christians for traditional families, and it's like just everything, you know. And the thing that was interesting was when you look at this type of an organization, it may have started out with a good purpose or a good goal, but it's clearly gone off the rails. This last week, I think it was, two of their founding member and one of their CEOs or something like that, two really high up people in that organization were released from the organization. They were fired because of misconduct, of like harassment and sexual misconduct and abuse and like that kind of stuff. And so the organization itself clearly has no moral high grounds on any form of like on anything, but yet it still puts forth a lot of energy and force attacking individuals. It's the organization that that was always referenced when linking like Gavin McInnes to being a hate group, starting the Proud Boys, which they claimed was a hate group, which wasn't true. It was always linked to or it sent out. I mean, it even sent to Owen Benjamin's mom's college. It sent a message, email to her college, where it said, "Your son is your employee's son is." How did it say it? Owen read it on one of his streams, but basically was saying that she's a racist because her son's a racist, which both of them aren't true, and it was saying things that like. It's attacking individuals that it disagrees with. That's what this organization has come to. And when you see a big organization like that, it's very clear that it's things are going bad. But the funny thing is, and the thing that I wanted to illustrate is, a lot of times those same steps of things going bad, we can scale down and see them in our own lives. We can see them in the way that we interact. We can see that we have those same weaknesses that organization had, and I think that it's important to take these big, whether it's a government, whether it's a church, whether it's an organization. You can see these big flaws in the organization, and oftentimes they'll scale back to weaknesses that individuals have, that we can have as individuals. You see this in Scripture. It's called the pride cycle, where you have people who, and we're seeing it today, you know, the whole saying, hard times make strong men make good times make weak men make hard times, and it's a cycle. Well, there's a pride cycle as well in the Scriptures where God blesses his people, then his people become rebellious or they become wicked, and then they're cursed, and then they're humbled, and then they're blessed again. And it's just over and over and over. That cycle happens in our lives. We see ourselves be blessed with a promotion, or a good job, or a break at work, or something good, and then we're like, I mean, there's this great story, and it's just kind of a silly story, but you have this roofer who's he's putting shingles on a roof, and he slips and he starts sliding off the roof, and as he's sliding, he says a quick prayer, and he's like, "Oh God, please help me." And then his pocket gets caught on a nail, and it stops his slide, and so he doesn't fall off the roof, and he's like, "Oh, never mind, God, I got it." And it's like, it's completely oversimplified, but it really happens. You know, we in our lives, we don't look at the little things that come back to us that make us grateful. That's one of the things that I haven't been able to figure out a good way to teach in my kids is gratitude. I can remind them, and I can tell them, and I can say, "Hey, you got to be grateful." Or, "Hey, look at this." Or, "There are kids that don't have this." You know, the whole kids in Africa would kill for that. I don't know. I don't remember. I remember getting told when I was a kid. I don't use that particular line with my kids, I don't think. But I do tell them stories of kids that I met when I was in Romania, I remember there was these street kids, these street boys that I would walk by every day. They were on this specific bridge, and I would always see them, and they were probably from 8 till probably 12 years old. You know, young, skinny, emaciated kids, and they were these little gypsy kids, and they would always pull out their bags, and they would have bags with paint in them, just little plastic bags, and they just huff them. And one day I was like, why do you do that? You know, why do you do that? And the answer that I got, I'll never forget. The kid's like, because it's better than the pain of being hungry. It's better than the pain of being hungry. And I was just like, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge this kid? It was really a good perspective for me that I needed. And what I would try to do with those kids is I would always have like a picture of Christ, and I would trade them. I'd say, hey, I'll give you this picture of Christ if you give me that bag of paint. And they would I remember there's this one kid, and he was with one of the younger ones in the group, and one day he's like, oh yeah, I want that picture, yeah. And I was like, well, kuchinetsi, like, who do you stick with? Do you stick with Christ or that? And he looked at his bag and he's like, I stick with Christ. And he immediately gave me the bag, you know. And the next day he had another one. I didn't expect him to completely turn his life around. It wasn't a life-shattering thing, but when he was put to the question of making a choice, who are you going to stick by? He chose Christ over the release of that pain of hunger, over the release of that drug that he had been addicted to. And it was neat. A lot of times when we're put to a question, we make the right choice. When we're asked like directly, okay, what do you do? When Owen says, who is your master? He yells it, who is your master? And I can't yell because I don't want to wake up my son. But when Owen puts it to, when we put it ourselves that way, who's your master? Who do you stick with? It's a lot easier to make the decision. But when the question is, oh, are you gonna go to church? Are you gonna do something nice for someone that, I don't know, whatever it is. I'm not sure what the thing is, but when you have the option to make a good choice, but it's inconvenient, or it's hard, or it's easy to forget, when we just don't remember to do it, what do you choose? And it's like, oh, that's not put to you directly as Christ or that. It's put to you as will you remember Christ? Will you remember what you're supposed to do? Will you remember God? And nobody asks it unless we ask it ourselves, or unless we listen to God as He, to the Spirit or revelation or whatever it is that brings you closer to Him. If you listen to that, then you'll have an answer. There's been I've been listening to a lot of different stuff on some of the new legislation that's going out. Marco Rubio, and I'm going to say this wrong, BDSN. Let's see. Yeah, BDS anti-Semitism. Okay. Excuse me. So there's this new legislation that has passed. It's called this BDS bill, or this anti-BDS bill. I don't remember exactly the right terminology, but basically here's what it says. It says that if you are contracted with the government as a business and you boycott Israel, the government will boycott you. And you have like Marco Rubio, who's been tweeting, like he put out a tweet that was about government, or how did he say it? I should just look it up. Let's see. The anti-Israel BDS campaign pressures. The anti-Israel BDS campaign, this is a tweet from Marco Rubio, the anti-Israel BDS campaign pressures companies to stop doing business in Israel and banks and funds to divest of investments in Israel. SB 1 allows local and state governments to boycott the boycotters by ending contracts with companies that give in to these anti-Israel demands. Opposite to our bill isn't about free speech. Companies are free to boycott Israel, but local and state governments should be free to end contracts with companies that do. Many claim they oppose BDS, but shielding BDS from counter boycotts is de facto support of BDS. This is so this is so wrong. It's interesting. He must think that the people that he's a senator for are stupid. He must actually think that American citizens are stupid, because what he's saying is, one, a U.S. citizen or a private organization such as a business has the right to boycott Israel. The government has the right to boycott that company for boycotting Israel. That right there is wizardry, straight and simple. He's conflating the two things. The government is not a citizen. It's not a private organization. The government is a public organization for the American people. But when he says it that way, he makes it sound like, oh, we're just doing what you're doing. And it's a very us versus you attitude. And it clearly shows that he's against the American people, but for the Israelite, for the Israelite nation, which I don't particularly have a problem with supporting Israel, but I do have a problem with putting Israel's interest above the American people's interest. That's counter what a government should be doing. The government should be serving the people that it's governing. Yeah, that sounds so gay. It should be serving the people that it's governing. I guess that's the right way to say it. But you have a ton of organizations, both on the right side and on the left side of the political spectrum, who are coming together in this, and they're claiming that it's anti-Semitism if you don't agree with them, and if you criticize the bill, you're an anti-Semite. And the thing that's really sad is, okay, first off, through prophecy we know that Israel is going to be attacked. They're going to be all the nations are going to turn against them. That is going to happen eventually. And when it happens, eventually Christ will come, and he will the Israelites, or the Jewish people, will finally recognize him as the Savior. And they'll be shamed because they see the marks in his hands and his feet that they gave him. That's prophesied of. So we know that's going to happen. But what this does is it pushes people towards anti-Semitism, which is a stupid word. It pushes people towards hating Jews. And that's the sad thing, is because when people don't mind supporting our allies and that kind of stuff, but when you're pushed into something, when you're forced to do something, if you disagree with something, you're called a bigot, or you're labeled with hateful rhetoric, that gets people to step back and be like, you know what, screw you. You're out. Go. And as you look into it, the thing that gets really sad and also really frustrating for the American people as a people is that there is a high grouping of senators and congressmen who have both dual citizenship to the U.S. and Israel, and they have Israel as and they're not singly for the United States necessarily. Now, I'm not saying that just if they have dual citizenship that means that they're not for the United States, but if you're a representative of a country, you need to renounce that citizenship. You need to renounce that external country's loyalty. When my wife, when she was nationalized, she gave an oath to relinquish her loyalty to her native country, which was Romania. and she did that. Now, the Romanian government, from what I understand and what I remember, they don't necessarily automatically say, okay, you're no longer a Romanian citizen. If she were to try and have a citizenship in Romania, I think the government there would accept her, but she made an oath that she would cut all ties, that or that she wouldn't. I forget the exact oath it was, but it was, in essence, that your now loyalty lies to the United States, and that's one of the sacrifices she made when we moved here, and that is a normal thing to do for the country that you're a citizen of, and for our elected officials to not have that same priority. And then when people point that out, they're called anti-Semites, or they're called Jew haters, or they're called whatever it is. It's like, why can they not question? Why can they not find it out? Why can they not? Or why can't people do a little digging? And that's the sad thing that people don't realize, is because they're trying to force this legislation that makes these things illegal, and that puts these in the realm of hate speech, because they're fighting against it, and because people are being pushed away and pushed around because of it. That's what makes people mad and want to fight and want to cause problems, and they're creating the problem that they're claiming to avoid. And I don't think it's an accident. I don't think it is. It's really sad to see, because when you look at the citizens of the United States, when you look at just regular people, they don't want to be entangled and pushed around. They want to take care of their families. They want to take care of their homes and their lives here. But the United States, as a country, it has become an empire. It has become, we've got our fingers everywhere, and it's made a lot of the globe distrust us and not like us. It used to be a big deal if you talk to people from Italy, from Romania, from a lot of these European countries, as well as South American countries, and just in a lot of places. America used to be this land of the free and home of the brave that they revered. And now that America has come with troops everywhere, with wars, that we've been in wars since, for the last 20 years, we've been in war after war after war, whether it's on terror, on this, on that. We've been in Libya, and just all over in the Middle East. And it's, people hate that. People hate it. And yeah, there are people that are liberated. I mean, there are good causes, but you have to have a foundation that's stable. And our country right now is not stable. It's not stable with the debt that's going on. It's not stable with the culture that's going on. How Hollywood is propagandizing, and Hollywood and the schools are propagandizing our children, and the people who don't have the time to think how that there's this opioid crisis it's terrible. That's one of those things that it's terrible to see. It's hard to see when you see how people will struggle and try to get ahead, and they get stuck in a rat race because they don't have either the skills or the know-how. They don't value the correct things. Sometimes it's a problem they cause themselves. A lot of times it's not. The communities are being broken down, and it's one of those things that a lot of it stems from forgetting God in our day-to-day life, in our individual life. One of the reasons why I make these videos is just because I want my kids to know that I haven't forgotten who God is. I haven't forgotten who gives me the strength to raise my kids the way I do. I want them to know that. I want them to see that they can look back and remember, hey, oh man, there was there were times that we struggled, there were times that were rough, there were times that were amazing, but we remembered who our Father was, who God was. Remembered that all things come through Christ. And that's, I don't know, I don't like to, I don't know what I want, honestly, with this. I don't like to be too preachy on it. I don't like I don't trust people who are always talking about God and always talking about religion, always talking. You need to have stuff outside of, you need to have your life, your home. You need to build, you need to create, you need to be balanced in what you do. But because there's so few people willing to talk about it, that's one of the things that I keep coming back to, is we need to have faith in God. We need to trust Him. And that's an important part of this life. Well, that covers about everything I want to talk about. Time for one more shameless plug. But thanks, you guys. Is this one of those self-plug things? Sometimes you gotta take the little things in life. That's what makes it all the funner. You guys rock the party. Peace. And I am out.